Hi again, everyone. Dr. Tom McNamara back for our course in Prep for College Math. I would like to talk a little bit about the least common multiple for a set of numbers. So before we get into what the least common multiple is, let's talk about what multiples of a number are. So this is going to build on what we know from multiplication and division. And these ideas will be used again when we get to talk about fractions and do some other problem solving later in the course. So it's going to be important to get this down for some practice. So let's do some things like this. It's probably easiest if I explain this with an example. So suppose I wanted to talk about multiples of 6. Okay, I'll write out the first, 7 multiples of 6. Okay, so we start with a 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42. So what did I say? First 7 multiples of 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so these numbers are all divisible by 6. That's 6 times 1, 6 times 2, 6 times 3, 6 times 4, 6 times 5, 6 times 6, and finally 6 times 7. Okay, now of course we could continue doing that forever. Okay, there's no limit to the number of multiples of 6. Okay, so these are all multiples of 6, and of course we could do this for any number that we wanted to work with. If we wanted to do multiples of 11, the multiples of 11 would be 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, 66, 77, and so on for as long as you care to go. Right? You can get from one multiple to the next by adding, in this case, 11. We're talking about multiples of 11. You start with 11, you keep on adding 11. Or you could actually do multiplication and do 11 times 1, 11 times 2, 11 times 3, 11 times 4, and so on down the line. Okay, so hopefully now you're understanding what I mean when I talk about the multiples of a number. And once we've got that, we can get on to finding the least common multiple for a set of numbers. Okay, let's start out with some simple examples here. Oh, and just for the sake of brevity, we will usually abbreviate and just write LCM rather than write this whole thing out. Okay, so let's say we wanted to find the least common multiple of 3 and 5. Okay, so I would start out by looking at the multiples of 3 and the multiples of 5. Multiples of 3 are like such: 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. We could keep on going. Multiples of 5, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And we could keep on going. Okay, now notice that 15 appears on both lists. So that is a multiple of 3. It is also a multiple of 5. They have that in common. It is a common multiple. If I were to continue here, I'd get 24, 27, 30. In fact, let me go ahead and do that. I'll continue these lists. Next multiple of 5 would in fact be 30. Okay, so 30 is another common multiple. Okay, the name means just what it says. We're talking about a multiple that these numbers have in common. And we want the least one. So while 30 is a common multiple of the two, it is not the least common multiple. The least common multiple of these two numbers is 15. Okay? So this is one way to figure out least common multiple of two numbers. List out the multiples of each one and look for something that appears on each list. Let's do another example. Okay, we're going to find the least common multiple of 16 and 20. Okay, so we'll proceed in the exact same way. I'll look at my multiples of 16, I'll look at my multiples of 20. I'll start down here because it's easier. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120. I keep on going. I'll stop. Multiples of 16, 16, 32, 48, 64, okay, nothing in common yet until we get here, 80, okay, 5 times 16 is 80, and 4 times 20 is 80, so 80 is a multiple of both 16 and 20. So the least common multiple of 16 and 20 is 80. All right. Now there's no reason that you have to restrict yourself to dealing with just two numbers. You could find the least common multiple for any set of numbers. Mostly we'll be dealing with just two, especially when we start our work with fractions. But let's look at something like this. The least common multiple of 3, 4, and 6. Well, we're going to proceed in the exact same way. We'll look at multiples of all these numbers. Multiples of 3. Multiples of 4. And multiples of 6. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Okay, multiples of 4. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. And multiples of 6. 6, 12, 18, 24. Okay, notice we're seeing some stuff in common. Okay, for example, I can see 24 is on all three lists. So 24 is a common multiple of 3, 4, and 6. However, I am looking for the least common multiple. I want the smallest thing that appears on all three lists. And we can see the smallest thing that is showing up on all three of these lists is in fact 12. So 12 is the least common multiple of these three numbers. Okay, so this strategy will work for any set of numbers. You want to find the least common multiple, list out the multiples of the numbers you're dealing with, and look for what they have in common. You'll always eventually hit something. You may have to go way down the list, okay, but there will eventually be something there that is on both lists. Okay. So that's the strategy for least common multiple.